Touk, how you going, man?
Yeah, going well, mate. Very well.
So first off the cab rank, I come in and I've already fucked up. Firstly, I've called you Touk. Now let's get this straight first for everyone now listening. Touk Miller.
Yeah. No, it's like Luke, but it's Touk. I'm not gonna lie, I've let it go for 8 years. Commentators call me Touk, and I just got too deep into it, and then now I'm just paying the price for it. So people on the street and stuff will yell out Touk, and I'm like, that's not it. That's all right. That's all right.
Fuck, my bad, man.
Glad we settled that. It's good.
No, I did it on purpose to bring it up early,
yeah.
so it's good. How are you, bro?
Yeah, very well, mate. Very well at the back end of the season now. So we wish we were going for another 3 or 4 more weeks, but it is what it is.
The boys finished off the year pretty well, though, man. Like, I don't say this lightly, but it is a very exciting time. It feels like to be a Gold Coast player.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think anyone that's followed us closely for the year understands that we've probably our best year we've had to date. And it might not be wins and losses until we find out what the result is tomorrow. But I know that for us as a club, like inside the 4 walls, we're very happy with the progress we've made this year. And we've had a lot of boys that have taken the next step in their career. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it feels like as well, and we're talking off air about this season, my words, not yours, but it feels like as well, I look a little bit at footy now from external point of view, and footy's so reactive. Like, you can see people getting sacked and in and out, and people just want to make changes. Like, Clarko's gone north, all these things are like moving, which have to be done. But I think one thing that needs to be commended that I don't think has happened of late is like how good Gold Coast have been. And probably because they don't get a lot of scrutiny on them because it's a club like not in Victoria, but I feel like they've just stuck fat this year, and they haven't, like, even with Dewey, like, I'm sure he's an incredible coach, and I know he is because the boys look like they love him and you're playing well and everything. But I think the easy decision would have been to move on and do things where they're like sticking fat and going, nah, fuck it, this is working for us, let's keep going. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think anyone who's probably been in a successful club knows that stability is vital, and that's what we've got. We've got stability. We've got Stewie's one of the core blokes with that in terms of him signing on and being there, and then we've obviously had a lot of players that have signed on and staying at the club. So I think that ability to be a stable club, and it's not only just the coaching staff and the players, but we've got a lot of people that have been in the industry and been at the club for quite some time now. And I think when you do change people like the coach, that means that comes with other people that change within the high performance and stuff, and can really unsettle the team. So yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate position that we have the whole backing of the whole entire club and the community, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very exciting, very exciting. Now, mate, today's not about Gold Coast, it's about you. I'm really have been wanting to get you in for a long time. I like to play my cards close. I don't like to ask things straight away. Sort of followed you. Well, I'm sort of like was infiltrating your life, trying to like slowly get in there. And when I saw that you had been announced as ambassador of Tackle Your Feelings, I'm obviously an ambassador of Tackle Your Feelings as well. I didn't know if you knew that, but I was like, fuck this, I've got to use this as an opportunity to get you in the studio. Firstly, you enjoying that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've only had a taste tester this year, but for the sessions that I have been in, the work I have done so far, I absolutely love it. I love the concept of it. I love what it's about. I think it's very, very common and very like the moment in terms of like where everyone is in their life. And yeah, I don't know, I just feel like you can relate to it as well. There's like, I come from a junior club like you would yourself, and you have those same dealings with coaches and stuff, and you can see how the effect can come about. So
yeah, well, obviously Tackle Your Feelings, a mental health initiative by Zurich Insurance that helps local community clubs have a better understanding of mental health, and especially coaches. They're rolling it out to players. I was actually in my hometown of Ballarat last week. Went up to back home. Well, I say hometown. I lived there till I was 2 years old, but still, I'm a Ballarat boy Ballarat boy till life, till I die. No choice, but like I absolutely love it. I still feel like to this day I've got that country blood in me. But people would beg to differ. But doing incredible things, mate. So that's fantastic. But secondly, above that and on par with that, is I've just been so interested in yourself. Like, again, we don't get to hear probably a lot from you because you're in the Gold Coast, but you're a Melbourne boy. You've been a captain of like nearly every club you've ever played in. You're playing incredible football. Obviously, there's been some awesome battles with yourself and Dane Zorko on the field. But just playing awesome footy, great leadership, and surfing, cooking, golf, everything that you do, I like. And I'm like, I really like this guy. I really want to sit down and have a chat with him. So firstly, it'd be remiss of me not to ask you, how's your golf game going firstly?
Depends what day you ask me.
What are you playing off?
I'm playing off 7 at the moment. Yeah. I've whittled my way down, but some days it's like I feel like I play off bloody 25, and other days I feel like I play off 1. But at the moment, I put the clubs away for a couple of weeks, which is hard because I play every week, man. Like I play sometimes twice a week, go to the range. Like I'm a full nuff. Like I absolutely love it, bro. Like it's just something that 4 or 5 years ago, I got hooked and like.
What did you start at? What was your first handicap?
27, I reckon, when I first got
Wow,
in.
so you've come down to the 7th.
Yeah.
That gives me so much
What
hope.
are you playing
I'm
off?
off 22 at the moment.
That's not too bad.
Oh,
so
mate.
you're a burglar. You'd be a burglar.
I am sometimes, but still can shoot like a 13.8 if I want. Like I played a stroke play on the weekend. So I've just joined a club in Melbourne, and every weekend I play on Sundays. But on this week I played Saturday morning, and it's stroke.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate stroke play. For those who don't know, instead of Stableford, you're literally counting all your shots. So I was like going well, then I had like a 15 on the hole, and normally you just pick it up, and it was just
that hurts.
It breaks your heart.
It does.
It does. It really does break your heart. But we'll have to go over have a hit. Are you a member?
Up at Burleigh Golf Course. I live like 100 metres from there, so it's that easy. I drive past it every morning, so it just sucks me in every time I go.
I played up at Coolangatta.
Oh yeah, the Tweed course. Yeah,
Tweed
it's cool.
Coolangatta.
Very good. We had the Mick Charity Golf Day there. I don't know, about 2 months ago, and that, mate, it was unbelievable.
What happened
it was so
with
much
that,
fun.
man? Because we are you're at we've I don't know if you've seen, but we're starting something really cool here. It's called More Greens Golf. So we're in the works at the moment, creating this golf club, and in October, if you're around in Melbourne, we've got a golf day getting planned. So I've heard that Mick Fanning's had like one of the best of all time, and we're going to try and rival it.
Mate, I'll tell you what, I would love if you could. To be fair, it was like, I think it's probably a lot to do with Mick Fanning being the guy who he is and all the connections he has. But it was just, mate, the golf day itself was just epic. Every hole was pumping. I mean, there was just like something to win or something to give back on for every hole. And they raised over like, maybe 500,000, not that day, but over the course for the Give It charity, which was pretty cool. Yeah, very cool.
Okay. It's going to be hard to
top. I mean, you got to start somewhere, but it was cool. Yeah, it was very good. It was very good.
Yeah, fucking hell. And you're cooking? What are you cooking at the moment? You're into your sourdough breads?
Yeah, man. But I think everyone in the COVID world got into bread at some point. Like, that was just something that everyone did. I was like, so I ended up doing that, and then I kind of started to nail it a bit, and got my tail up and started to show off a bit.
So you have like like an actual bread maker, or?
Nah, sourdough's like kind of all by hand, bro, and feel like it's. I know it sounds a bit corny, but it's just it actually. I'm not gonna lie, man. It kind of is. Like, it's one of those things. Like, when you got to, like, it's like a live culture that you start with and that you have to build up, and technically it's alive. Like, so, and then that's like your yeast, and then. Like, sourdough is only, flour and water and salt mixed together. So it's not much, but you just have to, how you combine it, how you bring it together, and then you get this epic finished product. And it's the most satisfying thing, I reckon. Like, hot bread or hot sourdough over the oven.
With a bit of a lurpak.
The small things. Yeah, the small things.
I when we were away, we went down to down the coast over the break, and they had a pizza oven.
Yeah.
And I was like cooking my own pizza dough at the place. And it actually is the most satisfying thing in the world. Like putting it down, letting it sit, letting it rise, coming back, rolling it out. Yeah. And if you can get to like the end stage and completely fuck it. It's like golf. Yeah. It literally is. Like it's like so that. True, it's bro. Like those little things, man, like you can get so addicted to, and you can nearly never nail them. Yeah. You can, but it's hard.
Oh, mate, I've had some sourdoughs, bro. I'll be honest. Like, it's a 2-day process, and I've got to the last step, bro. And when you put it, it's supposed to like spring in the oven and like rise. Yeah. And it doesn't rise, and you pull it out, and it's just like flat piece of like shit, bro. It sucks. It's so deflating, bro. It's so deflating. It's like stroke play, bro. You hit one in the bunker.
Oh, I know that.
And then you take 5 out of the bunker.
I know.
Turn it into a 15.
Oh, God. I know too well. Hey, mate, talk us back to your early days. As I said, you've been Ascot Vale boy, Calder Cannons boy, Marby boy, drafted to the Suns. Yep. What was it like moving up there straight away?
It was actually really good for myself. So I don't have any brothers or sisters, and I grew up majority with mum. So I was pretty independent to start with. And I think the move just kind of helped with that. Like, once I moved up, we went into a host family within the first couple of weeks. And I think we were there, myself, Peter Wright, and Jared Garlett for about 6 months. And then moved out of there, and we were in our first house. Pete, myself, and Lachlan Ritchie was one of my best mates from down here, had moved up, and we were living the life. We were like 19, had a pad on like the canal. We had like a pool. We'd have the speaker. We had the table tennis table in the middle of the living room. We'd like wax when we were cooking. Like, it was just like, I mean, at that age, you kind of like, man, this is pretty cool, like pretty epic. You're playing footy obviously as well as your lifestyle. So, I mean, for me, the move was pretty fortunate. I really like relished in it, and I loved it. I loved the independence of it. And I just found that, like, I just had an opportunity to kind of learn on the fly, and I loved every bit of it.
No, you said I remember when you actually got picked up for some reason. I don't know what it was. I think I saw like maybe an interview that you did or something, and you said that. And for me at that age, like being a young bloke or even young guys and girls now in that position, it's very daunting to be like going into state. No one wants to do it.
Yeah.
Have you always had that sort of that independency, sort of like that desire to do it?
I mean, like.
Was there ever times where you were like, fuck, like I miss home? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. But then in saying that, I feel everyone's a little bit different. Some people are like have really big families, super connected with certain people in their family, and they feel that they need to be back home, which, I mean, I can completely understand. But I think for someone in my like scenario, I also was a big believer of wherever I got drafted was going to be where I wanted to stay. Like I was really big on that. And whoever was going to give me the opportunity, I was going to give them as much of myself as I could. So when Gold Coast took me, like, I mean, I was thrilled to get drafted, to be honest. And I think sometimes it, nowadays, like some draftees can be a bit picky and choosy as to where they go. But, and I can understand that to a degree, but sometimes you've got to be probably a bit more grateful as to where you are and try to make it work for yourself. And that's what I did. And I loved it. I just made Gold Coast home, and that's what it is now for me.
Not to beat around the bush now, there has been like so many players leave over the last few years.
Yeah, there has been. Yep.
How does that not sit with you, but like how does it feel? Because like, I suppose it is hard. And to put it even in my perspective now, I was really lucky in the way that I'd lived in Melbourne, experienced it, and then got to move interstate and just absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Where I think that's the biggest blessing, because a lot of guys that like play interstate always want to come home, but don't end up enjoying it as much as when they're playing interstate.
It's just something, or there's something about it. I mean, I think the people that did leave the club originally, we wouldn't get to the point we are now if some people hadn't left the club. So I feel like we actually got a lot of lessons that we got to learn from that. I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it really was. Like, I think for every person that left the club, you started to go, all right, well, what can we do better next time to keep them more? Sometimes some of the people that did leave the club were probably for the better in terms of where we're heading in that direction. So, I think for us, we've learnt a lot from the people that have left, but then I also think about now, we've now retained like probably 3/4 of our list.
Yeah.
And for everyone in Melbourne and other footy states that kept going, when are they going to leave? When are they poaching them? That never happens, because we were able to build a culture with boys that were there over, a stretch of time with Stewie. And we've got boys that now want to be there, which is fantastic.
I think it's funny as well, when you have like a club like Gold Coast and Giants, people always go, look at these guys leaving. But when you have that many high-end talent picks and you have so many guys coming to the club, all these picks, you actually can't keep them all. And they always say that like the ones that stay are the ones that they wanted to keep. Yeah. So like at the end of the day, it is a business. You're going to have to move on and get through for these guys. So it actually is, it is sort of part of the process.
I completely believe that. It's funny. I hear that all the time. Like people go, like, why did so-and-so leave? Or, how come whoever, it could be like Rankin, or it could be, Kingy at the time. And I think when you look at the bigger picture, like you said, GWS are exactly the same boat. You've got 15 top 10 draft picks. At some point, one, your salary cap's never going to hold out. And two, you just can't retain that many good players because they can't all play at the same time. So someone needs opportunity elsewhere, and that happens. It just, hopefully you keep the ones that you want, which is the main thing.
What's it like at the Gold Coast? Give us a look into the culture there, because it looks, from, as we said earlier, like very exciting young place to be.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's just come with all the energy that the young boys who have come in the club have done. Like, I feel like we got really, really fortunate with some of our draft picks. So blokes like Noah Anderson, Matt Rao, Jack Lukosia's been king. I know they're big names, but they're actually really good people. And I think what people probably don't get to see, being the fact that we're in the Gold Coast, is these blokes actually love driving the club. So yes, we've got some senior players like myself and Jared Witts and Dave Swallow and blokes that have been there a while. And, we help kind of guide them and give direction. But I think for us, inside the four walls, the blokes that are really carrying the club in our core group are those boys I talk about. And I think as long as we keep them together, and there's probably another 5 or 6 I could really list off that would be part of that crew, they kind of what making Gold Coast tick, and they play well, we normally go well. So I think if we can make them as best AFL football as we can, we're going to be pretty successful.
It's exciting, bro. It's a really exciting time. Let's talk about you, the evolution of Touk. Be honest with this question. Did you think you'd be where you are now at the start of your career?
No.
As good as you are, playing what you're doing?
No. I actually, I remember 3 years ago, we did, you might have done it before, where you do an affirmation about, you pretty much write exactly what you want to be, or the type of player you want to be, and you kind of write down the overs. So like I was writing down like, I'm gonna be an All-Australian midfielder, but I'll be honest, 3-4 years ago, I'm like, that's not gonna happen. Like it's just it didn't seem like a reality, and I think because of that, the club wasn't going very well. There was probably other factors that threw that in, but I was like, yeah, that was just not really reality. Like I was working my ass
you're
off,
shooting down goals at like at the time unattainable to you. You think
that's what I thought. Yeah. And it probably
what
sounds
else was on the list?
Well, obviously, like team-wise, I really wanted to play finals, and then obviously playing like not just one premiership, but I want to play at multiple. I would love to be a part of a dynasty. And the other thing is that the club has an opportunity to be the first in everything. So we have a chance to be like the first club to play finals, the first group to play in a granny.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just this opportunity for the Gold Coast where you don't get anywhere else. So yeah, for me, like that main one, which was being an All-Australian midfielder, was definitely unattainable back then. And then I had a lot of things that kind of ticked me over as I started to get a bit older and grow as a footballer that pushed me in that direction to start believing that.
What was that?
So I spent a bit of time with the psych. I know everyone talks about the mental side of the game.
It's funny, isn't it? It's actually, I hope people with this, it doesn't start to lose weight of like people talking about how much they put into their game, but it must have done something, obviously.
It does.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like physically, you've been in the game before. Like physically, you can only get to a point where you are as fit as you can get. You can always make minor tweaks, but your body gets to a stage where I think that that's what you're operating with, and especially when you're at your prime, like between this age that I'm probably at now. So where do you find your gains? And I think for me, I thought my gains are going to be mentally in between the years, and I think probably about 2 years ago, I had a conversation with our psych, and
who's that?
Tristan Collar, and then we sat down for this was like just 2 games into the season. It was really rare, and I just opened a can of worms and pretty much laid out to him exactly the type of player I wanted to be and how I wanted to be perceived, how I wanted to play my footy, and what I thought I was capable of. And I don't normally do it. I'm a little bit more reserved, so I didn't want to put that on someone, but I did because I was just like, it just happened. And then he wrote it down all on the whiteboard, kind of condensed it all and put it into 5 or 6 little sentences, and what it pretty much spat out to me was that I was more than capable to be able to perform as an A-grade midfielder, and that I put in enough work to be able to warrant being that type of person. And that was probably kind of the guts of it. And then I literally left that room going, all right, we'll give it a run. And I had a game against Sydney last year, probably the best game I'd ever had in my head. And I kind of felt like I broke out from there. And yeah, it was kind of been a really cool experience ever since. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. I love the concept of, and to be honest, I didn't get to experience that in sport, but I've experienced it, I think, to an extent now in life. But that process of you have to believe it before you achieve it. Yeah. And it's like you have to nearly like think what you can do, and then you actually just go to it. Like it's so fucking weird. It's almost a fact like you think it, you just put the message out, and then your actions just start taking you there.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, to be fair, there's also a lot of the other factors that come with that. It's not just that one thing. Like we as a team actually performed better, and I think when your team performs better, you have an ability to be able to have better opportunities for yourself. And the players that I was playing with were a lot more, we were a lot more connected. And I feel like I fed off that a lot. So that really did help. But yeah, I mean, that was just like one thing that really stood out to me is just like that self-belief, and it's massive. And I've got our high performance coach, Alex Rigby, is really big on that mental side of the game, and he's really pushed that side of it. And we've now got Noam Baldwin in at the club, who's a breath and a mental coach, and he's been huge in terms of getting blokes to actually get on board that, because it's not a space where you're 18, 19. I'm going, I nearly really work on my mental game because you don't know what it is. So yeah, it's been really, really positive.
Who are some of the biggest impacts in that? You said Alex Rigby and Nam as well. I've heard of him before, and we had Matt Rowell on, a year ago, and he was saying how good Alex has been for him.
Yep.
Can you talk to like even and me and general public? Like you got a psych, you got a head of high performance, and then you got a breathwork coach. Like it seems to everyone, you go, fuck me, like how many people are you actually working through? But like what are the roles of those sort of like 3 people in your life anyway?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously with Nam, he's a really good performance mental coach. So I find that what he really specialises in is how you get into maximising yourself when you're training and when you're playing. And he's really good at like grasping ideas and getting you to like tweak them as you go, as the season goes on. You don't go, all right, this is what we're doing at the start of the season, and then we tweak it at the end. It's like every game you're kind of reporting back, what can I do differently? How can I, he's got like for an example, like I felt really bad in the warm-up and I was starting the game poorly. So he's really big on beat the struggle in the warm-up, which means, when you go and you do a run, first like minute and a half, you feel absolute shit house. But then like after 3-4 minutes, you start to feel a bit good, get your groove, you start to find your wind. Like he's really big on doing that in your warm-up. So then by the time you hit the field, you're ready to go. So it's like things like that he's really, really good with. Tristan, our psych, really, really holistic, really big about not just your on-field stuff, but how do you...
General wellness.
Yeah. And your identity, we started to build on... just recently, we started to build what's my identity as a person, and that's like really holistic. And he's really good at because he didn't grow up in football. He's from England, so he's like he doesn't live and breathe AFL. So it kind of gives you a bit of a different aspect when he's talking to you and what he can grasp, which is really good. And then Rigger's like, mate, he's like the GOAT. I haven't been to another club, so I'm only speaking from the people that I've dealt with, but. Mate, for someone who doesn't like being in the limelight and what he's capable of in terms of being a high-performance manager, he just gets it. Like, he understands that boys will be boys and, like, you have to have work-life balance. Like, it's so important. Like, he's really big. If you want to work hard, you can have your beers afterwards, and that's okay. And he's really big on, like, he's got some screws loose for sure, man. He does, bro. I'm not joking. Like, he's put us through some pre-seasons that are just, like, off the Richter, like, just crazy. So when we brought him in, like he was like, we're getting fit, and it was just like drop the footies and fucking mate.
Just running or running, physical? Man. Like running, what sort of challenges are we talking?
Like we're talking like he did this session, bro. Like it was just like I remember we trained on the back oval and we'd always have to bring our keys, and so we did like a normal footy session. Then we started doing these like 1K efforts, and then he's like, all right, grab your keys. So we would have run like 10, 12K already. And because the Goldie Summers are like, they're hot. Pumping, bro. They're just like humid in your face. So stupid. Grab your keys, jump in the car. We go around the corner to this like 120 meter like slight incline hill. And so we're doing sprints up this hill for like, man, I don't even know how long. It was ridiculous. Like, and the coaches, when you go to the top of the hill, the coaches would be there on the side on the way back, and they'd be bumping you and tackling you and like trying to get you to the deck. And then we'd go and then we'd wrestle. And then, it's like when you wrestle and then you try to run, it's that much harder. Get back up the hill. Then we finished that. And then we end up doing this like, it was like 3 minutes. I'll be honest, I was almost blacking out. So I think it was like 3 minutes, then like 2 minutes as far as you can go, 1 minute. Because he's really big on there's no finish line. So you just got to be prepared for anything and at any time. So, he's the type of guy that at times we'd finish a session, you hang the boots up, you're like, all right, I'm done. And then it's like, hey, boys, we're back out there and get back into it. But he's a really critical part to the culture we're trying to build. Like, because we weren't there. We weren't fit enough. We didn't know how to be at AFL intensity as a club. And he's now brought us to a level of fitness that is capable of being competitive and being at AFL standards. So, yeah, I mean, you got to love it. But I'll tell you what, mate, the boys that were there, that hurt. It was a grind, but it was worth it. Yeah.
Oh, mate. Look, I'll be honest. There was times like that early in my career when I was like a young 18-year-old kid and just had no idea like how to work hard. And we had a guy, David Butterfin, who's still a friend to this day. Yeah. And I actually went on a camp with him recently, a resilience camp. And he works in like the corporate sector now. So he still taught these lessons to me, like to be uncomfortable, get uncomfortable, being uncomfortable. You got to continue to do things that scare you. But to show how important these people are, not just in footy but in life, like the lesson he taught me, and I learned this very early, was he was very similar. So like you'd never know when you're finishing, and it was almost like he'd trick you into think you're finishing, and then you're not done, and it's all these things. So I remember once we're doing these runs, and I was like coming last, and then the next one he goes like, the next person who wins this is finished for the session.
Oh no, he's just going. Oh no.
So I've gone like, all right, fuck it, here we go. This is my chance to see it out. And just sprinted like the last one. Won it by like 50 meters. Like, if you're going to win it, at least win it by 1 meter, like, so it's not as obvious. Yeah. And he's like, how the fuck did you have the energy to do that? Like, you were just coming last there, and now you sprinted the last one.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I basically had to just stay there and come back in and had to do like double what everyone else had to do for doing that one thing. But it was the biggest lesson to me, just like, one, leave nothing in the tank, and two, if you're going to cheat, don't cheat so obviously.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. We've had boys do exactly that same thing, man. Like, the old last rep hero, and then
last rep hero, man. I reckon Ed Kerno called me like a Superman for like the next 4 years. Like, it was so embarrassing.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, so don't do that. Any young players listening, just make sure you
Always, or do it on the second last one. Don't go balls out on the last.
Not on the last one.
If you're doing it, do it on the second last.
Not on the last one.
And just grind for the last one.
Me. Who would you say in your life and in footy has had a big impact on you? Because I feel like from talking today, I think it's very aware you're a sponge. You love learning from people. You love bettering yourself and becoming a better human. Who would you think you can look at now and go, fuck, I've learned a lot from them in footy, learned a lot from them in life? It might be the same person.
Yeah, I mean, I can't go past my mum. Like, my mum plays a massive part in myself growing up, the type of person I am, my mindset towards people, football, the way of life. She's just really big in terms of instilling me with certain values that I feel like help me both on and off the field. She's also someone that's like really, really determined herself. Like, she's someone that has her own personal goals and achievements that she's been grinding and chipping away at, which I feel like for me gives a really good sense of fulfillment that, she has an ability to do that, and then also, look over me as well while she's doing it. So, yeah, I think for me, my mum plays a massive part in terms of the type of person that I am, and it's funny, like, it was mother-son relationship growing up, and now I think we're just best mates, and it's really easy for us to, mum will come up on the weekend and we'll just be kicking it in a cafe for like, a few hours, like just talking, chewing the fat about anything. Could be sport, could be politics, even though I have no idea what that is, or like how to talk about that, but we'll just find common ground all the time, and we really just get on very, very well. So she's probably had the most and the biggest impact for me, both on and off the field. And I think over the time I've just had little bits and pieces. Like you said, I think being a bit of a sponge, I think it was really what's helped me in my career, because I feel like when you start to turn your nose at people, or sometimes you forget where you come from, so you start to burn people when you want to go back and reach out, that opportunity is not there. So I feel like as I've kind of been in footy a while, every time I've crossed someone's path, I try to make a conscious effort to give them my time of day and try to stretch them as much as possible, or, at least have a small chat. And I think that people like Dean Solomon, Matty Lappin, when I first got to the footy club, was the development coach, and like, mate, he spent like hours with me on the rebound net after weights, after training, making sure that he just ingrained habits into me to become an elite footballer and like have elite standards. And blokes like that, I never forget, because I don't think I'd be the player I was if I didn't have him at the time. Dean Solomon was really similar. And then probably most recently, like, I spent a lot of time with Ali Day, who's in the Ironman, the Nutrient Ironman, and mate, he's an exceptional athlete, like just one of a kind. Like, mate, he's just, I've never seen anything like it. He's kind of just on another level in terms of his fitness and the type of guy he was. And so I've learned a lot from him in terms of the mental side. I actually went and trained with him, stupidly enough, mate. Like, in
the pre-season?
The off-season, bro. Yeah. Like, I actually really love doing, when blokes go off and do kind of random stuff, and just like, you kind of just be amongst other elite athletes. And so anyway, I reached out to him, and we got in touch, and I went and started training with the Surfers Paradise surf club. Really? Mate, it was an experience, bro. Like, I went to my first session at Tully Creek in the flat. Normally they go out in the waves, and they do like 3 laps swim, board, like a paddle board, and then the ski. So I didn't do the ski, and I did 3.5 laps of everything, or like I did two swims and 1 board, and they finished. Like, I'm talking, they lapped me 4 or 5 times. I was so bad. Like, and then we went out in the ocean and did the same thing. And they're just exceptional athletes. I truly believe. But it was a really cool experience, because I was just way out of my depth, out of my comfort zone. But you kind of just got to absorb it and, like, learn from them. They give you tips and how they handle themselves. And that's been a massive one. And then I've reached out to Travis Boak a few times, and bounced off him with some things as well. He's been really, really helpful from a leadership point of view and also like playing. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I kind of just bounce off everyone. Like everyone's got a story. Everyone's got something to help you with for sure.
No, I couldn't agree more. The one part that really loved then, I don't know if this was a part of anything in there, but you talked about like going to people and like learning lessons from burning people, and you always want to give time. And I was thinking when you said it, I was like, have you ever burned someone, or have you reacted in a way that hasn't done it? Because I'm thinking now, and like things come to me as a young bloke, I always think, fuck, I could have handled that so much better back in the day.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm sure I have. I'll be honest, I'm really sure I have. But I think as I've matured more as a footballer and like a person, you start to be more aware of if you have burned someone. But like when you're 18, 19, like you wouldn't have a clue, man. You could burn people and you're just so oblivious because you're playing footy, life's really good, things are just like all Chrissy. So you probably lose that like sensitive factor. You don't have a lot of empathy and sympathy for what's around you, and I think that can happen. But I can see that because boys do that when they come to the club now, and I'm like, shit, that does happen, and
it's
that's
all about
understandable.
it's really just growing up, isn't it?
It is like it's part of it.
Yeah,
I think it's all part of it.
I look back now and just really cringe at some shit I did. I just because I've now that you get older and you setting things up and you're trying to do things and you realize like time and all this stuff. Look, I'm probably asking a question here that's so relevant to me right now and like trying to get an answer from you, but it's just like I've worked out like you just have to appreciate people's time and those people that give you time, like Al Day and Travis Boak. And for me now, like I'm trying to get better in certain places and reach out to people. I always want to make sure that when I do that, I'm prepared and I'm ready, I'm respectful, and it's like you're not taking other people's time for granted.
I think that's the most important thing is that taking people's time for granted. Like it might be one conversation that you have with someone and you might not talk to them for another 10, 15 years, but that's okay. It's not that you're burning them, but I think the fact that you gave them the time of day and you respected what they had to say both ways. And to be honest with you, there's also some people that you deal with that you just, you think are dickheads and you don't like them, so you just push on. Like it's just if they're not for you, you just push on. But that's okay. But I think that's I'm really big on like if you do pass people, you got to be respectful of their time, whether they're someone that you really look up to and idolize, or it's just someone like the butcher hits you up across the counter and wants to talk footy, even though you've had a shit day. Like you got to put the time in, I think.
And one part you sort of didn't breeze over with your mum, but I think one of the coolest things ever is like guys loving their mums, because I've got the best mum in the world. I know you think you do, but like, I think relatively, I think it's just like the best thing. Having a good relationship with your mum, like to this day, I can't even talk about my mum without just everything she's done for me is incredible.
Yeah.
Your mum's also run 20 marathons plus.
She ran. I think she's run 20 marathons today now. Yeah, and
is that what you were alluding to with personal goals? Like, is that like just how driven she is?
So she's done. Yeah, she ran 20 marathons. She's run 10 Melbourne ones, which made her a Spartan for the Melbourne marathons, which is really, really cool.
I saw the Spartans running around there we did the marathon last year in the Spartans with the 10 years.
Pretty sick, man.
It's unbelievable.
It's pretty cool feat. Yeah, it's pretty sick. And then Mum pushed on and started doing Ironman. So triathlon. Sorry. So she's done 3 half Ironmans now. So. Did her most recent one in Geelong in February, which is I surprised her. I went down and surprised her and got to watch her and help her, and it was so sick. It was such a cool event. She did fantastic. And then she's not all just athlete. So she went got a master's for marketing. She's got a degree in psych. Like she just she's just someone who's just an overachiever and just keeps pushing on with goals. And I find it very inspiring to be a part of it. Yeah.
It's hard not to be inspired when you got people like that around.
Yeah, it's very cool, very humbling. Yeah,
so cool. Your leadership style, man. This is something that I'm really interested in. As I alluded to earlier, almost been in leadership positions in nearly every club that you play with. I don't want to say is it natural, but is it something that came natural to you and you've just developed it along the way, or do you just find that you love being in those sort of positions?
Probably a bit of both, man. To be honest with you, like I do love being in that position, but I also have naturally developed it over time. So I think from a young age, I was under 12s Vic captain. And then from then on, I literally I was really, really fortunate. I got to be vice captain of the 15s Vic team, and then I captained 16s and 18s, and also at Calder Cadden. So I think for me, that leadership role, I felt really comfortable in, and I actually really highly valued. I just feel like when you're a leader, you don't have to be the captain, but when you're a leader, you are someone that holds a lot of responsibility and weight of the people that are around you. So, I've found that having that responsibility keeps you accountable. And I think anyone who's in a leadership role would understand that if you don't have people that follow you, you can't really be a leader. So what you're either doing on or off field, you need to have people around you that are willing to, follow what you do, get behind you. And I've just found it's forever forever not ending in terms of what I'm trying to learn as a leader. I even now, like first year as captain, like I think at the very, very beginning, I thought I was ready maybe like 2-3 years ago. And I definitely was not, mate. Like I was way off the mark. Like when we lost our captains, I was like, yep, this would be my time. Like I'm ready to go. And then I got given the vice captaincy, and I'll be honest, like I was a little bit off it because I thought I was ready to go. And Dave and Witsy took over, and I'm so thankful they did because I learned so much from them. Like in the years that they captained together, like in terms of the maturity they showed and their ability to handle certain scenarios, like I was amazed, and I think I matured myself a lot more, and found now that I can handle that role better. So it's been a whirlwind this first year as captain. I'll be honest, like there's just always something going on, and every week there's something happening, whether it's a teammate or a staff member. But I love it. I really relish in that opportunity. I think to be in a position where you can captain an AFL football club is a childhood dream of mine, and something that I think this just played a big role in my life.
I love it, man. I love your honesty too, because so many people aren't honest when it comes to leadership. They go, oh, no, I'll let someone else do it. But like to say, I wanted that role, I didn't get it, but I still got it now, wasn't ready at the time. I think it speaks volumes. That's why you're the captain, because you do say those things. I really, really appreciate it. I love that you said it, and there's no reason. That's the reason you are the captain today. Talk us through though those lessons that you learned, because I think that, as we said before, around leadership is you learn so much about yourself. Like you have to be dropping your ego, but you have to have an ego. You have to be mates with people, but then you have to be respected over being liked. You have to balance relationships on and off the field. Like how hard has that been, or how much have you enjoyed doing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, you're completely right. I think the hardest thing I find is getting the balance between yourself and like having your backyard clean, and then trying to help others on top of that. So I think what I've learned as a leader the most is you have to have your own backyard clean. Like you need to be able to play really good football. Like pretty much any leadership person that's come into our club or that I've had dealings with have always talked about, you need to be able to perform first, and then you can lead off the back of that. So if you're able to handle that, then the other leadership stuff comes a lot smoother. So I think for me, what I then found after that, when you try to get your performance under control, is that not everyone's the same. So like how I would probably lead yourself versus how I would lead a 19-year-old is going to be completely different, and how you give them feedback, how you look after them. And like some people are really sensitive, some people aren't. Some people love critical feedback, some people don't. And then I think the other factor is when you're interstate, that there is that sense of you need to create more of a family environment for other people to want to be there. I don't think it's as easy as, not that I've been in a Melbourne club, but I can imagine that people can kind of go off to their families and go to their mates that they've grown up with for years.
100%. Like,
versus
Well, just on that, just to further your point, is like when I was in Melbourne, I don't think I would ever really. I'd hang out with probably 3 guys at the club outside of the club, and then the rest would just be schoolmates, family. Versus when you live interstate and you play footy interstate, that's who you hang out with. That's
it is literally all you. It's all you got, really. And don't get me wrong, like sometimes it's not for everyone, and sometimes people do, slide under the radar and you miss them, and that is unfortunate. It does happen, but for the majority, you really try to keep the group together, and that's what it's all about. It's how can you bring this collective of probably like 90% of blokes that are interstate to all then play for, the one brand of football and the one team, and feel comfortable with that. So, I've definitely, some of the lessons I've learned over time has definitely been a lot around how do you handle blokes that come from interstate, and the different personalities. And I've just found that like the one now is it's the young ones that I just sound so weird because I'm not really that old. I'm only 26. But I literally like sometimes I'm talking to some young boys going like, shit, man, I'm actually older. Like, I'm not on that level at all, man. Like, it's just not me. And like, you know, you'd be talking about like how they would have like, you know, had some beers on the weekend after they got a corky, and like you're sitting there going, yeah, shit, obviously don't have beers. Like, how hard is that? But when you're 18, 19 and the boys flick you a text and it's like, you know, we're going out and like, you know, you're probably chasing a bird or something like that. Like, it's just like with that young, it's hard to like, you can't process that. But I know back then that you would have been doing the same thing. So yeah, I think sometimes it's about getting on their level, trying to understand them, how you can best, you know, get them to perform on the weekend. That's probably another thing is actually getting blokes to perform. Everyone ticks differently. Like how I'd probably talk to Witchy to get him to. He's really fiery character. Like he got white line fever. It's so funny, bro. Like you just got to prod him a few times and he like screws up his face and starts making weird noises. But you get him on. You know you've got him going. But versus like I don't know someone like Lockie Weller. Like he's just someone who really rides confidence and. You know, if you can really pump him and get behind him, and you're probably going to maximize his potential. So, everyone's a little different. But yeah, I'm sure there's many other lessons that I'm probably going to learn over time as well.
Well, I think we've come so far, not even as footy, but just in life in that way. Like that one size fits all just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit at all. Like so many people can take things so differently. You just got to work out what's best for you. And sometimes what's funny with that as a leader is like what people think is best for them actually isn't.
Yeah.
So you might think you like getting sprayed to get a fire up, but that actually doesn't work. Whereas you might think you like to be cuddled and that doesn't work either. So it's like it's playing both things. Like you've got to work out as well. Yeah. Because people can say this is good for me, but maybe that's what's comfortable. It's not actually what's good for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I also think that over like even the time I've been in AFL, like times are changing. Like what was acceptable maybe 10 years ago or even 8 years ago is probably not acceptable now in terms of how you handle players and their mentality. And, you know, I actually truly believe that a lot of the younger crop have bigger egos, but that's not going to change. Like that's probably going to still continue and get bigger and bigger as the next crop come in. But it's how you handle that. So how can you get them to fit into the culture that you're trying to drive and actually try to get them to relish in what they're doing? Because I find a lot of them actually got, you know, they're pretty ballsy and that can be really, really ideal on the field and really handy because they want the ball in their hands. They want to be able to entertain, show what they got because that's what they grew up watching on TV. So it's how you can kind of, you know, grab that and fuel them to make sure they deliver that.
Love it. The one other part about leadership that, you know, I wouldn't have really been in the four walls of, but you see, and it's really crazy when you can sort of put yourself out and look at it, is that the leadership group is the direct communication from coaches to players. So how have you found like being that voice, like talking to the coaches and then talking to the players and sometimes even having to push back towards coaching stuff? Like, does that stuff happen? Because I remember when I was playing, like the best leaders were the ones that could feel the group when the coaches couldn't, and they'd go back and say, look, the boys don't want this today, or we should push them today.
Yeah, it's big. And I think as we've got 6 people in our leadership group, so over the years we've had like as big as 9, I reckon, and as small as 4. And I think the main thing is what you said. It's about being the voice for the players. So you end up being the direct line from the coaches to the players. So when the players feel that, I don't know, there might be something that's really bugging me. It could be like maybe the way we do selection isn't really like ideal. Like sounds like a small factor, but that's having an impact on quite a few players because you know, blokes might be getting in because they're having good performances, but then you got blokes that have put in together maybe like 4 or 5 really, really solid weeks, but haven't had that star game, but they'd probably deserve to get in. So we're probably that link in terms of being able to deliver that to then the coaches. And I think what we've got at the club, which is very, very fortunate, is like blokes like Stewie, Stephen King are really, really receptive to what we have to say. So they have a lot of trust, and Wayne as well, in the leadership group. So what we say, they take on board and they're happy to implement. So there's kind of no divide, which probably have had in the past, but with the group that we have now, there's a lot of trust built between us that if they feel that, so if we come to them with something that we want to happen or we feel from the group, they have full trust that that's what needs to get done and they act on it. So, and it's vice versa. They'll give us stuff to then pass on to the group because sometimes it's not very easy for coaches to get to 47 blokes and they need the leadership group to be able to filter to a few different blokes so that they can they can kind of then spread. So it kind of goes both ways, but it's really important.
Super important. If you could answer this question, pretending no one's even like listening to this, and it's hard because it could come off like it's hard to beat when you're a very modest person. It comes off
good leading. Yep.
Exactly. It comes off hard. But I have a feeling that like when I watch you play, you must like talk to yourself and like nearly put on this sort of like, not a character, but like, what are you talking to yourself? What are you saying? Because I can almost like see it in your eyes that you've got something else there.
Yeah.
Is that?
Does that make sense at all? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm just trying to make out with you through the screen or something.
I probably don't talk out loud to myself, but I definitely playing stuff in my head, which I think is probably back to what we were talking about earlier on in terms of the mental side of the game. And what I've learned is, how do you stay present in the game regularly? I'm really big on that you never fizzle out of a game and you always play when there's no finish line. So I don't care if we're up by 60. I don't care if we're down by 100. Like, I'm playing until the final siren. I'll smother the ball when there's a minute left on the clock, because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to play the game to its full potential. And I think for me, I'm always trying to come back to my triggers as to how I best play. And we talk about as a club playing a trademark game. So that's you at your best footy. And I think when I feel like I go away from that, I try to then bring myself back to that. So my chat in my head is always about, how am I going to make my teammate better in terms of the way where I'm standing, how hard am I running, who am I covering for, who am I talking to? Because if you're not talking, you're not helping. Like, and then there's that factor of like, they might have put on like 3 or 4 goals. How do you then calm the group down to make sure there's no panic? And so I mean, my brain's probably ticking over all the time, but the main core of it is that how do you stay present with what you're doing, and how can you play that trademark football as best you can for as long as you can.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was alluding to that didn't probably make sense in the question, but I love what you're saying, because what is really hard about that, and you articulated it beautifully, but when you're running and you're at the 4th quarter, that shit isn't hard to remember. Yeah. And I feel like you're always sort of like staying present. You're always looking, and that's what a leader does. But it's not as easy as you just described it, because you've just ran probably 13, 14 kilometers as well. You got other shit to worry about. It was something that I really struggled as a player, was like remembering other shit. You sort of just go insular and you think about yourself.
So, and it's so easy. It happens all the time, and it's not to say that never happens to me. Like, that does happen all the time. But I think the difference is how quick can you come out of it.
Yeah,
it's because that's what it's all about. Like, you could have a 5-minute patch where you pretty much just ran around, and it's like when you're driving. When you're driving, you forget what the last 5 minutes of the drive was. Like, that can happen in a game because you haven't touched a footy. I don't know, you haven't actually laid a tackle or bump. You've barely seen it, and you can't. And then you go, shit, like, what have I been doing for 5 minutes? But then, like, if you have those triggers and that those things to come back to, then you go, oh shit, like I'm a really good with my 2-way running. Like, my contested ball winning and powering out from a stoppage is really key. So that next stoppage, that's what I'm thinking is like, all right, where am I standing? How can I then impact this from either winning the ball, or can I be in the first, second, or third layer to be able to impact that? So, I mean, it does happen when people phase, but like I said, I think it's all about how can you get out of that quickly and become present with the game as quickly as you can.
The derbies, Sydney derbies, WA derbies, everything big. It looks big. I'm not joking about this, but like the Q clash, there seems like there's some genuine, not hatred because you don't hate people, but like it seems like it is pretty heated games.
You can say dislike.
There's some dislike. There's some genuine dislike there.
Yeah, there
is.
And
you've been very not prevalent, but you've had some big games in there as well. And we're alluding to playing with Dane Zorko and these games. Like in the theatre of footy, I know it's good for teams, but it is so fucking fun to watch.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good to hear. I mean, I'll be honest, those couple of years with Zorko were cool. It was heated. Like, it was real too. Like, there was a genuine dislike between us, and that was okay. And the battles were, pretty ferocious, and I loved it. I think that's what now makes me feel like those Q clashes have so much more on them. There's so much more merit on them. And don't get me wrong, I feel like the boys feel exactly the same. Like, there's only two teams in Queensland, and we want to be the better side. And when they're touching you up for a couple of years, that hurts. Like, it honestly does. So we're biding our time. We know that we're going to get them eventually. It's just a bit of a matter of time. But yeah, those early ones, they were they were fiery. They were really fiery. I loved it. I actually loved it.
So good.
Yeah.
It was so good to watch. Who are you most excited about? Who, like, players coming through at the moment that you look at and you go, this guy's got something?
Yeah. Oh man, probably list goes on for us because we do have quite a lot of really talented players. But I think for me, the one that flies under the radar a lot is Noah Anderson.
Yeah.
Because of Matt Rowell. And don't get me wrong, Matty Rowell, like he would be very, very special. But Noah is he's like one of a kind. He definitely, I think he's at his age, to the ability of how he sees the game. He's an unbelievable two-way runner. Like, a lot of people probably mention the way I two-way run, but he's just as capable. And like the way he reads the game and how he uses the ball, he's like ultra composed, sees both sides of the game. Like, mate, he's just a player that he's like a 26-year-old in I think he's 21-year-old's body, which is hard to find.
He's in the leadership group as well, isn't
he? Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me, mate. You don't have to talk to him and spend a day with him in the football world to understand that, like, that's why he is in the place that he is, because, very, very special talent. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be leading our club in years to come, for sure.
Wow, it's exciting. I've had the pleasure of meeting Noah and Matt. They're just, to think that they're like best mates.
How random is
it?
it?
Coming together. It's just like, it's
man.
fucking nuts how good they are. It's exciting times, very exciting times.
Yeah.
Hey, what's next for you? Like, it's exciting. I know you put out affirmations. You've achieved a lot of things that you want to do already. What's goals, both, personally and professionally?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, probably right at the beginning, is I really want to make finals. Like, I don't want that to go under the radar, like to be the first team, because I only ever be one first team.
You haven't played finals yet, have you?
No. So we'll be the first team ever to have played finals, and then I want to be the first team to win a grand final and then win multiple. So there's only one team that will ever get to do that, and I want to be a part of that. So those are definitely high on the list. And I mean, individually, like, to be honest with you, I felt like last year I was just scraping the barrel of what I thought I could do, and opening that, probably unlocking that door of belief in what I was capable of. Feels like now I'm only hitting my straps. This year I feel like I've had a really strong year, but in saying that, I feel like there's just still so much more growth to go. And I think as we get better as a club, that's only going to excel as well. So, I mean, like, I know people say it like sky's the limit, but it really is. And I think there's going to be a lot of boys that will come with, and we're going to have a lot of players that play some serious football in the next few years, which is really, really exciting. So, and I guess for post footy, I mean, I want to play footy until my legs don't work anymore. So I haven't thought that far, but I do know, being in the footy world, as well, that you start to get a lot of connections and you start to network, and I think the opportunities start to come from that. And I feel very comfortable with the people that I've talked to in my journey so far, that I will have an opportunity to, when footy does finally finish, to be able to explore other avenues and kind of find what I like. But yeah, for now, I'm all guns blazing for the Gold Coast at the moment.
Love that, man. You got to put I think I preached way too early about like having balance, but sometimes if you want to be the best at something, you have to actually go 100% into it.
Yeah.
And if you have balance, it actually doesn't work, which is crazy. Just on that though, like you said, about what you want to do, the sky's the limit. Have you got any plans for, like, obviously the season's finishing up for you guys, but have you got any plans for the off-season, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it? Like, have you thought about what sort of thing you're going to do to get ready for next year?
Yeah. Actually, this year's probably a little bit more on the downside in terms I'm going to the States with my fiance for 5 weeks. So It's not all about the training side of it. It's actually, I guess because of COVID, there hasn't been that opportunity to travel, and we've just been wanting to get overseas and travel a bit. So we're going to spend about a bit over a month in the States.
Awesome.
And
where are you going?
We're doing LA, Texas, New Orleans, Florida, and New York for 10 days. It's going to be epic, man. I can't wait. It's just like, I love my American sport as well. So like NFL, the basketball, baseball, anything, the ice hockey, I've never watched that. So it's going to be a pretty cool experience, I think, for the both of us. So we're really excited for that. I guess on a training front, I'm going to go back to the Surfers Paradise.
You're going back?
I'm going back,
no.
bro. Yeah. And I'm trying the surf ski 100%. And then I think for me, I've talked to Riggers already around what my off season looks like, and he's kind of big on the more years you come, the longer you're in the game, the more unfit you come back in. Sounds really bad over the mic how I say it, but I think we've always had a view that you want to be peaking in this time of year. You don't want to be peaking at the beginning. So our mindset has always been around how can you best prepare your body so that you're not running like sub 6 minute 2Ks at the start of Christmas, but you're doing it.
Yeah, December heroes.
Yeah, well, like when finals time comes around, you're absolutely flying, which is the most important thing. So putting things in place so that works is more our goals for going into off-season.
How hard is that though? Because you always say that in your head, and then you get into day one and you want to keep going. But I totally agree. The best thing that has really ever happened, and not that you want to wish this upon anyone, but sometimes even having like a little setback early in the year, you see these guys come, everyone's fucking cooked halfway through the year. And the team is like coming through.
It's so
not so
true.
much the pre-season, but you want to get your whole pre-season in. But you know, that first December to January period, even with the new rules around coming back to training, it is shortened now.
Yeah.
The pre-season was too long.
It was massive, man. I was a big believer that it was. I remember you would have had the same, but I came back and did like 8 to 9 weeks before Christmas, and I was
You're already fucked.
Yeah,
you're ready for a grand final in December.
Like, you could hit the field and you'd be absolutely flying.
You're
and
like a horse.
I just think that what we've learned over the years now is that, and there's also everyone's a different case. So like, if you're a lot younger and you probably haven't had that big of a season, the opportunity for you to be at your fittest before Christmas probably is your benefit, and then you might burn out towards the end of the year. That's okay, but I think for some others, it can be like the tactic that we're going with in terms of you want to be just rising so that by the time you hit September, you're really playing your best footy, and there is kind of no finish line in terms of how you feel, which I think's really important. But like you said as well, I start training sometimes and there's no way I'm taking a backward step. Like you just go bullet a gate and you're like, I just got to do this. Like I got to go hard. Like there's no way I'm just doing like a couple cruisy laps. Like, I find that very difficult to do sometimes. So, but yeah, that's like kind of what I've been learning over the years.
Love it, man. Well, look, I hope you have a great off season. I know the next few weeks is going to be tough I know there's going to be burning in you to really get there, and I hope the boys can do it next year. It seems like a massive upside. It's a pleasure to get you in today, man. I love picking your brain. I'm super excited for what's to come for you, man, because I totally believe in everything you're saying. I think you can be an absolute star. Not that you already are, but I think you can go even more. So, it's been an honour, bro. I really appreciate your time. I can't wait, and we'll definitely check back in next year and see where things are at.
I love it, bro. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Love it.